got a good one for you today, guys. Today we are doing another shootout. This time it is between Mizuno's Neo Vista and New Balance's Super Comp Trainer V3. Let's get into it. Alright guys, full disclosure, both these shoes were sent to me for the purpose of review. However, no one has told me what to say. No one other than me has any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the Mizuno Neo Vista for $180, and you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the New Balance Super Comp Trainer V3 also for $180. And of course, I'll place links in the show notes below in case you want to pick up either of these for yourself. So why don't we get started with some specs? That's what we want. No, in fact, you know what? We're not going to get started with specs. We're going to get started with what these shoes are for. Now, these are both super trainers. And of course, that can mean different things to different people, but ultimately these are each of the brand's top of the line training shoe options. Each of the shoes has a fat stack and each of the shoes is plated. Now we'll get started with the Mizuno Neo Vista, and the Neo Vista has 44.5 in the heel, 36.5 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. The New Balance SC Trainer V3 on the other hand has 40 in the heel, 34 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. So 6mm drop, 8mm drop. I've got to say, when I'm running in both of these shoes, can't really tell the difference between the drops, but if you have a preference, your life is easy, your mind has been made up. Now, in the US men's size 9, Mizuno claims that the Neo Vista will tip the scale at 9.4 ounces or 266 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 11.7 ounces or 331 grams. Now, the New Balance SC Trainer V3 in the US men's size 9 tips the scale at 9.2 ounces or 261 grams. So as far as sample size goes, the SC Trainer V3 is 5 grams lighter than the Neo Vista. 5 grams isn't much though. But in my size, a US men's size 12.5, and yes, you heard that right, in the New Balance I went to a 12.5, I'm wearing a size 13, my normal size in the Neo Vista. But in a 12.5, the SC Trainer V3 tips the scale at 11.6 ounces or 329 grams. So in my size, the SC Trainer V3 is only 2 grams less than the Neo Vista. But remember, it's a half size smaller. Now, it's not really a half size smaller. In a 12.5 and a 13, they kind of fit the same to me. But last year in the SC Trainer V2, I did find that it was quite voluminous, or the upper had a lot of volume. So by dropping half a size this year, I was just hoping to negate that, and it worked pretty well. The 12.5 fit me very well in the SC Trainer V3. But guys, right off the bat, I know I'm not helping your decision. The Neo Vista and the SC Trainer V3 are the same price, and they weigh almost the same. So let's talk about materials, and we'll start with the Neo Vista, and I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see that. Look at that heel collar. I guess I've got to start by telling you that the Neo Vista is a soft knit booty-like upper. It's all one piece. So when I hold up this heel collar, and you can see that there, it is super thin, and thin like there is just one layer of knit. There's no padding incorporated into it. So already, if you do like a knit upper, if you like a nice booty fit, you are going to love the Neo Vista. But get this, I'm not really a fan of it, and yet I still love the Neo Vista. I think Mizuno has done very well using this upper. It hugs my foot well. I didn't have that usual loose feeling that I get in a knit upper. So definitely props to Mizuno for making this solid upper. Now the heel counter on the Neo Vista is like super squishy. There's barely anything there. I mean, there's nothing there. You can see how I can push it down. Now there is a tiny bit of reinforcement in there, and by that I mean the heel counter is not quite as soft as on the side where there is no reinforcement, but look at that, it's barely anything. Probably just enough to keep the back of the shoe like standing up on its own. And Mizuno has been able to give this one-piece knit upper a lot of structure by incorporating different weave patterns, and I think they've done pretty well with it. I mean, the upper, you can see by itself, it does tend to stand up. Now there is some underlays coming on the inside just along the base here and then around the toe box. We have an overlay of Mizuno's running bird here on the front, and then right here at the top eyelet chains you can see these little pieces of rubber just to give a little support. And the Neo Vista does have this extra lace loop in case you wanted to lock down that heel using the runner's knot. But as far as the eyelet chain goes, there's really no extra reinforcement. It's just weaved in. In fact, the laces are weaved between almost a shock cord material. Now it's not a shock cord. It doesn't have as much elasticity as a shock cord does, but that's what it looks like. And it's weaved in and out, and I'm able to get a good mid-foot lockdown in the Neo Vista. We're going to come back to the midsole, so hold on one sec. Moving over to the SC Trainer V3, guys, you can see this is a much more traditional setup. You can see we've got a lot of padding coming around this heel collar. The heel counter on the SC Trainer V3 is, you know, it's not super rigid. I want to say it's semi-rigid because I can kind of push it in, but of course, next to the Neo Vista, I mean, the SC Trainer V3's heel counter is solid like a rock. And I'd say it's solid enough to get rid of most heel slip issues if that's the type of thing you experience in your shoes. Now, New Balance is using a Phantom Fit upper. Now, it's a little heavier than their race day versions, and it's even heavier than the Rebel, but it's nice, it's light, and it's breathable. And as I already said, it's just a lot more traditional looking. It's like a typical running shoe. Now, again, New Balance is using different weaves in their upper for this Phantom Fit, just to give it extra breathability in some places and a little structure in others. And then for overlays, we have the big N here on the lateral side and mini N on the medial side. You can see it best here on the medial side, but there's kind of like a thick part of the Phantom Fit upper, which is just giving a little structure to keep that standing up. Of course, we have an underlay coming around the toe box. And then and a much more traditional eyelet chain with reinforcements either on a group of holes as we can see here in the middle or individual like this first set. And just like the Neo Vista, the SC Trainer V3 does have that extra hole in case you needed it to help give a little extra lockdown in that heel. The tongue on the SC Trainer V3 is super thin. It's super thin without being like a race day tongue. Remember, this is still a training shoe. And the tongue is gusseted and it does have a lace loop on the front. Look, I know we didn't talk about the tongue on the Neo Vista, but there really isn't a tongue because it's a one-piece booty upper. So it's all built in. The tongue is either gusseted because it's all built into everything else, or it's not gusseted because technically there isn't a tongue. Either way, both these shoes did give me a good lockdown. However, when I was running in both at the same time, like one on each foot, it was clear to me that the SC Trainer V3 did give me a better midfoot lockdown than the Neo Vista. However, when I was running in the Neo Vista on its own, it wasn't really noticeable. Now, before we come down to the midsole foam, I just want to hold this up. I don't know if you guys are really going to be able to see this on camera, but Mizuno is using their smooth speed assist geometry. And you guys know what geometry is. I don't have to explain it to you. But if I hold both these up, they're actually very similar. And when I put them like this, we can see that the toe spring is very similar between both shoes, as is the heel bevel. Now, I think what you can probably see right there is that Mizuno's heel bevel starts a little further up the shoe, which is probably what contributes to a nice rolling motion in the Neo Vista. However, I am a big fan of the geometry of the SC Trainer V3, and unless you are running with one on each foot, you're probably not going to notice too much of a difference. Both the Neo Vista and the SC Trainer V3 are extremely smooth. Okay, now we're on to midsole. And midsole is a pretty exciting topic with these shoes, especially for Mizuno, because this year they have introduced their Energy Next foam. That's NXT. And basically the Energy Next is a super soft and plush foam. And I think it has been a huge plus for Mizuno because before they came out with Energy Next, I thought their training shoes were just a little firm. Like, always comfortable. Mizuno has had comfort dialed in, but the firmness, especially on their daily trainers, I don't know, maybe it just wasn't my cup of tea. The Energy Next changes this. It gives a super soft and plush ride, but that's not where the story ends. But we'll get there in just a second. Now, if I hold this up and show you the bottom, you can see this giant void here in the middle. And inside is Mizuno's glass fiber reinforced wave plate. And it makes the shoe pretty rigid, right? I'm having a hard time bending it, but I can bend it up on the toe. And that is going to give the shoe some pop. And of course, everywhere but that void in the middle, we have full outsole rubber coverage. So the Neo Vista is going to last you a good long time. Oh, and I should say that the outsole rubber on the Neo Vista is a lot softer compound than you've seen on other Mizuno training shoes. So that mixed with the Energy Next foam just contributes to a very soft feel, at least some of the time. And we'll get into that when we talk about the ride. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what kind of foam Energy Next is, it is an EVA, but it's like no other EVA that you've run in before. It's actually infused with nitrogen and it changes the properties entirely. But let's move on to the SC Trainer V3. New Balance is using their fuel cell foam, and I know fuel cell can be a couple different things. This is their PIBA EVA blend. I think I read somewhere it was like 20% PIBA and 80% EVA, but I also think New Balance is onto a good thing with this foam, and there's a big stack of it. Maybe not as big as the Neo Vista. The 4mm less in the heel on the SC Trainer V3 really isn't noticeable. Both these shoes are super protective. Now, if we take a look at the bottom of the SC Trainer V3, you can see we've got a midsole void coming up to about midfoot, and then inside we have a carbon fiber plate. And this carbon fiber plate makes the shoe very rigid. Now, I thought the Neo Vista was rigid until I tried to bend the SC Trainer V3, and this is quite a bit more rigid. And then just like the Neo Vista, we do have a lot of outsole rubber coverage, good amount here on the forefoot, and then on both sides of the heel. Now, before we talk about ride, I do just want to pull out the durometer, and I just want to give you an idea of the durometer values of the foam. So we'll start with the Energy Next on the Neo Vista, and I've got 25.5 in the heel, got 24 in the forefoot. And remember, the higher the number, the firmer the foam. And then on the SC Trainer V3 in the heel, 20 in the heel and 24 in the forefoot. Now, guys, that's actually very surprising, because actually I would have said, based on my own experience, that the Neo Vista is a softer ride than the SC Trainer V3. And I still stand by that despite what the durometer tells me. In fact, you know what? Let me just get a couple different readings from different spaces. All right, it's confirmed. I mean, the numbers differ a little bit, but overall, the durometer says that the fuel cell foam in the SC Trainer V3 is just a little softer than the Energy Next foam in the Neo Vista. However, just ignore that last bit, because in my experience, at least when I take out the shoe when I'm warming up or when I'm running easy, the Neo Vista feels substantially more soft underfoot. I mean, when you first go out in the Neo Vista, I think it's shocking how soft this thing is. And the ride of the Neo Vista actually reminds me more of the SC Trainer V2 last year. They've kind of firmed it up this year with version 3. But that's not where the story ends, because we do have this glass fiber wave plate, and when you start picking up the pace, when you start running a little harder, it's almost like the properties of the foam change completely, and it feels like the foam firms up just a little bit, starts returning that energy to you. And that is what I found was the real beauty of the Neo Vista, is that it really does double duty. It gives you a very soft ride in the beginning, or if you're out for an easy run, and then the foam firms up slightly, and when you start loading that plate, when you start picking up the pace, the shoe really comes alive and becomes something totally different. Now, the SC Trainer V3, on the other hand, is pretty much even keel. Like, what you see is what you get. The fuel cell foam is absolutely fantastic, and yes, it may be a little firmer than last year's SC Trainer V2, but I gotta say I actually preferred version 3 over version 2. And just like the Neo Vista, I think the SC Trainer V3 is a great all-rounder of a shoe, except in one area, and I'd say that's recovery runs. I think I would rather take the Neo Vista out for a recovery run just because it's so soft. And the SC Trainer V3 underfoot, for me at least, and remember there's a lot of factors that go into how we experience how soft or firm a foam feels, but for my weight, I experience the SC Trainer V3 as just slightly firmer than the Neo Vista. Well, not slightly firmer, I'd say quite a bit firmer, but I would never call this a firm shoe. It's still in like the medium firmness. And again, much like the Neo Vista, when you pick up the pace, the carbon fiber plate in the SC Trainer V3 makes the shoe come alive and just feels really exciting and fun underfoot. So you're probably wondering, like, which shoe would I pick? And I was just thinking about this question before I started the video, and it's very difficult to come up with an actual concrete answer. But I think the Neo Vista is a more fun shoe. I think it looks fun. I love how the ride changes depending on what I'm actually doing in the shoe. But when it comes down to it, I think the slightly firmer foam in the SC Trainer V3 makes this a slightly faster option, at least for me. And while I do love this one-piece knit upper in the Neo Vista, when I run in both shoes back to back, I think I do prefer the lockdown of a traditional fit. And I'm sure one of you is going to ask me what shoe would I choose for race day, and that, for me at least, is quite a simple choice. I think I would go with the SC Trainer V3. And look, neither of these are race day shoes, but they both could be race day shoes. You know what I mean? Like, they give enough energy return to make it fun on race day, fun and fast, but they're not as light as each company's race day options. So now I want to hear from you. If you run in either the Mizuno Neo Vista or the New Balance SC Trainer V3, if you have, drop a comment and let me know. And if you've run in both of them, I'd love to hear your opinions on which one you like best. With that, it's Matt B. This has been a shootout between the Mizuno Neo Vista and the New Balance SC Trainer V3. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.